Okay, Exodus chapter 21. And this talks about the second part of the law. There are 3 parts.
Nida ba po pe me ma ai sho ba ma tai sai sen ma au ite ni ne pe me ta ti re ne ma ai sho pe so che go he ar kun ma pe me man na che che ma.
There is the 10 commandments, and then there are the regulations, which we'll talk about today, and then there are the system of sacrifice and the way they worship.
Ya re la che na ma ai sho ma ta se khun ko he si be me ni to te na che na ma ai sho na ma da si na ma asana ke na me to ne ma abi mi shelu na ne ami re abi asana mi re me to na ma ke be me sen ko sana si me regulation so mi de sana upama de kun ne na ke ne si be pre mo ka si ne ma si ni take un klon ko no regulation pa so che de chen ma de ma SCB mi sa ma ti pu de la do be lu thana de chom re.
I wasn't going to study this part, but there's one thing that it talks about that is very important today in our country.
Ni da ke lu ma sra na ha si me ide a me so pe ma de na che do ne he ma na ide a be sha na de tu ma kun ne si pe me thơ si de he na ko me na si so ke ki.
Now you know that abortion, killing unborn babies, is very, very big in this country today.
Ani si singe he ma kun ne si atna si lima mi sa ma pu o pa da ho ku si na he na ko asana kun ne ma da lucky do ku si na ma la kha ne to te ma asana news dunia ko.
You know that there have been over 60 million 60 million children that have been killed this way in the last 50 years.
Ni da pe me ro la do ku si na ma asana pe da pe me ka kya na ku nga sai jang ko nge cha ne ma tu kun ne ma pu che si ma da a sa da ma ho ku si ma ki mi sa da ho ku a ke na ma asana au in ne ko sana 50 million man.
There are some, actually there are many, who say that until a baby is born and comes into the world, that it's not really a child at all. It's not a human.
Mi de ma te he zi ma te ne ko ina ke ne pu che pre a tail a de ne dia tino le ra ko to put a pute a to le to ne ma sana ke na opa da ho ku ve ne ma ye ma le to ai no.
Now that idea sounds very foolish to us.
Ni na pinin da me ko si ma sana esima sana te mui do ne a hi sha di te ne ko.
And so we may ask, does the Bible talk about whether abortion is right or wrong?
Me no te me na pisi singe ko he da li sa ko ma a he sho ko pe sana da ma ke ne pe me sa ke pe pu da ho ku ma re to no.
Well, we can learn how God thinks about abortion in chapter 21.
Ni na pe me ba ite ba di se ba da po mai sho pe ko just bi shu ma sana a he ma me hu da a mi sa pu da ho kun ma a me te klo tin.
Would let me see. Bomay, would you read in Exodus 21? Would you read verse 14? These are the rules of how to handle when people fight or if someone gets killed for some reason. Oh, you want? Yes, Exodus 21 and verse 14.
Manalo kaya chapre ki misi take kaya du azu tapre hima aki hia uta ju cho anina ba pe lu tare cho bebe nebe twichi tapha kya lu ro nebe misi kya lu.
So God said that if there is a person, if there's a man that plans to kill somebody, and then they go and they kill him, then he is to die. They are to put him to death.
Ba apa ma Yesu na hina kena kia pre na ha ami ni ma da ame misa ke ye ba ami sa ke ye ne ma da ngi na ma ke be misa lu ami misa ke ma ke ma le primo ni pre ko.
And the reason that God says to do that is because God believes that a human life is very, very precious.
Ame mete ma Yesu na hi mi mete na ma sana da ite pe higufusi tena pe te chopre ne ko ma sana be bit adu loka.
A human life is precious, God says, because a human is made in the likeness of God.
Ani ma Yesu na mete ya hina ba pe higufusi kie sin ma adu atala mete ne ma sana da pe ma ite pinni ma sana da ma ite asa pinni ma sana da ma chomre ko.
So the question is an unborn baby really a human? Really a child?
Mino ha ma pe si su de na ma hina da ma puchi na ko ha bo ba da hok we ne ma sana ba na kin ma e ma ke ye tong na puchi ka ha puchi ye.
And we'll see here that the answer is very, very clear.
To ba pe me pho ne ma sana ai sho pe ma ai sho ta ti re ne ko.
In let's see, this is chapter 21, and in verse 22 it describes a certain situation.
But de ma phu na ba ne san ni ma ai sho pe de ma ide sha ke o to ko.
Here is a situation where two men are fighting with each other.
Aba pho na ma sha ke ma sana da ma de ke sin esina ide kialo.
And there is a pregnant woman nearby.
Ba si kya ke na ha ma de promo a hollow to pre na ma au phu na esi ko.
And as they fight, she gets injured.
Ni ba si kya shi lo ke na ha ma promo ma hollow pre na ha sana akabe she amishe ma asi kya shi lo na amishe pato na ma promo hollow pre ko.
Jamie, would you read? I'm going to have you read, let's see, 4 verses. 22, 23, wait a minute, 3 verses. 22, 23, and 24.
Anafuma anishin ye tonto anishin nisholi. Ri kaya tahi kri na kielora atabe she premomu jot prero. Apu pie kya manaro abese ni ludu azuto akenu preta beshe lunu tapre be pla beshe nu tapre aveba aquibra lupu pretira tahi jugo lunu manaro aki bese chi nya cholu hima ube mishe chi kakishulu Neki misi hero ube misi kakishune. Neki mile take umetese mese plo hero ube mile shuki ne mese plo. Neki milake take ukuki hero ube milake shuki nekuki neki milake take utaku hero ube milake shuki netaku. Neki milake take ukadu hero ube milake shuki nekadu.
So these two men are fighting. The pregnant woman gets injured because they are not careful, and she gets injured.
Ni kun ne na ma da ma mi te ke sin na ma prekho sin na ha si kya shi lu no ha me she they me they me re to ne mi shi pa to ma primo hello pray go.
Now, if the woman has injuries that are very serious, then there are punishments for the man that hurt her.
Ni ke ne ma primo pray no a be shi ne ma sana adunya no klo ne a shi ne adunya no klo ne ma de ma primo shi lo de pray no ma asana be ka be no chi ya go.
And the question is, what about the baby?
Muna ite pesi shude na ma de ma primo hello ma apu no go asana be me paute.
Now, I need to find out, Same, exactly how that first verse is translated.
22?
Yeah, in 22. It says if men are fighting and they hurt a woman with child, how does it sound in Quran?
Me de. Primo mu do the pray. Apu or pa apu piake. It's a pregnant woman and she lost her baby.
Okay. Okay. The first part is a pregnant woman, and then the second part talks about the fruit coming out. How does it word that?
Này là hello thôi này mà sẽ là apu piake cho nó mới. Apu piake manaro abesheni lude with it. I can. So, and does it say like baby coming out or?
That's what I want to know, because different translations say different things. Does it describe what comes out?
No, it just says like it just says broken.
It doesn't tell you what comes out.
No.
Okay, that's important. That's what we need to study, because there are the people who love abortion. They say that what this means is that the pregnant woman has a miscarriage. In other words, whatever is in there comes out, but if there's no, what they say is that there's no thought about what comes out. They only care about if there's injury to the woman.
Oh. Well, ours doesn't say anything about injury to.
Right, I'll explain that.
Okay. Ma ite hina ma hina da ite me ma a hopia hina ma ite asina me hu da ma primor pra ka an ne ma shino to nglo.
So what this says, there's two things that it talks about here. First of all, the pregnant woman gets injured. And then the second thing talks about the thing coming out. Now, in your Bible, it doesn't tell you what comes out. See, the people that love abortion in this country, what they say is that when it is inside the mother, then it's not a human, it's not a child, it's only a massive, flesh.
Ma te ma da esi ma achu me achai ma hu da primo asana asimi pia ka holo man ani we a hino klasi ma atanina da ba pa bo ne ma hina ame te ma puchi ma ite au pa da hoku ne ne ma sana da puchi ni ne ma le to sana kiye ni ne ma le to sana o pa da hoku sana hu da ani klasi kasi ma o le to klo na kino.
And they say, because it's not a child, because inside it's only see, they're lying when they say this, but when they say it's only a mass of cells, then you can do whatever you want with it.
Ani mena ha sina ahina me te au para hoku no he sana hay chela tu to mate ma hole tu to no ha sana da se mana hu da ma ite masal ma mi da sana pe ku si ma su ma da sweet si plus no ha mina sana pisi mete ma mini me
So, what comes out?
Mina asana mai te.
This is the most important thing to remember. It says, literally, if we look closely at not the Quranic words, not the English words, but if we look at the Hebrew words, we will understand.
Ani kira nema dali sa kon sin mai chope da ba te khete ma puche na holo akina ma puche ma kiye ma to ni lo ha sana ai sho ta te pe ma de ma Hebrew alangur kya ko sana da pe kiye langu be kula langu be sana ashipya ai hi cho na ma ata te to sana shira na da ni te Hebrew de langu to
This is what the Hebrew says.
Abab ma ite ma da es Hebrew li sa ko na hin ko
It says about the thing coming out. It says, and if she gets injured and her children have come out, in other words, she has the baby.
Yeah. Baba puma da Hebrew ma hina kene ma promote the plan ha ite ani akabina ashir chi hena ma ba apu akina ma
That Hebrew word is not child, it's children. Plural.
ba ahina ite da Hebrew ma ahina puchi ahit prima go ha ahina apu akina ma sana da puchi akathea ahina ma puchi thinno ha ni ma puchi na ma ahit prima do ahina he nabi susi prega
We may wonder, why doesn't it say child? Why does it say children?
ani mete sana pitne go ha da Hebrew alangon ma ahina puchi de priya he to mete hijana puchi si mete
Could it be more than one?
maybe
You can have more than one? No. It could be more than one.
yeah ani mena pisi ye do go ha da ma promote pin ma holo apu akina ma atena ma sin na si so sin do
Could be two, could be three. Would you say that?
ma mena pisi ye do go ha da apu no ma au che sin na tom na si so che ko
So, in Hebrew, it says, if something happens and her children come out, her children.
ni mena da Hebrew alangon ma hina ke ne ma promote pre no ha kambino a shiri che no ba apu ake apu o si apu de pre no so pre o ake no ma
So, God does not look at inside. He does not say that is just a mass of cells.
mena bana kino da chumre me ma holo ake no ma sana da hina ba holo ake no ma shu be ma da sana tsu close ma to ka
God says it is a child or children.
ni da ora holo ko ake no ma da hakun ma de puchi te pre do ne puchi si ha
And then, of course, in verse 23, it says, if there is death involved, so if there is death to the woman or there is death to the children, then serious enough, just as if it was murder.
ni mena ha ke ne ma promote pre na asa ke to ne da ma phu si te hi si asa ke ne ma ite asi be me se ma hu da ma ite da permission no ami shelu ma to ga ya be sana be me se na da ma pre pre na mi sa ga chelu hu
You can see how God is so protective of a woman with child.
ani mena ha da pe me ba phu na ma pe singe ko ha da ma chumre na ma mi mo le ma ite da promote a holon pre ma mi mo ne nel ba te no
I can't imagine being in greater danger, not being able to defend yourself, than when you're pregnant.
ani da sana ma singe to ko ha da mi te ba asana chala ma to sana da dangerous ma alaba ne hola khena ma asana da nge na ma ali me she sina o e shwa lu pu cha hun klo na ka si me ta tu che re e che patu hun klo na
It must be terrible for our people in Burma when someone is pregnant.
ani me pe te ni me da do ku si ku ne si ke ne si hola na ka he a yen ne pe si patin
When a woman is pregnant, there has to be such great care taken.
ani na primo hola ne ma sana da ide lo me re si klo si ma sana du o e lu pu cha hun ka
Some of you may have been in that position, or you may know some of your friends that were in that position in Burma, where they had to run and they were pregnant.
ani si sing ye si kho te he ke tamne si sing ye ki ma da do ku si kun ne si te de ma da e si big le ke the ke no ma sana holo du holo te si hun glo si na
I can remember my daughter-in-law when they lived in India and she was pregnant. They were in a very, very dangerous situation.
ama sana tani ke kya be ke se ma ide apu ade primo no go he da e si order ma India do ku no go bana ke na ma ate a holo ke na go sana da e si ni ma shu ma hu da ate she si na ma o in ne go
There was a large upheaval in that part of the country, and they were traveling, and in the hotel where they were, outside were trucks going around killing people.
upheaving
Upheaval, rioting,
Oh, okay.
and yeah.
ba ma esi amecha ole mu ko ha cha to da hote ba na ki no ha sana da esi o hindi ma pimino tho ko ba ma rioting ma ke pya ni ku shindu si ma da tu chu da na sana pya na ko ba na ki na ba esi o phu ba na ko ba hote ne ma da hote a thu si na ma shu mo ka du si he ke si ngo si
And of course, it's much worse in Burma right now.
ni da me ke na ma a cha lo ba ka
So in verse 23, it says, if the woman dies or the children die, then it means the death penalty.
ni mina ba te apu ma pu ba na sa taw na ma hina kin ne primo holo prima asa ke tumne apu si de hina asa ke ne ma da ma a prebe me shelu de prima ena ma abisa ke go ke be misaklu
Also if you wanted to look this up later, in Psalm 139, King David talks about when he was still in the womb.
ni da si me ko he da si me no pa ni ba mana na li tu ta cha ma du na ba te ta se ko no a hina ma khui da win na go a he ka kyak se da ma o pa da ma mu ho ko ke na go
He says in verse 13 through 16, he talks about how God was making him, was crafting him in his mother's womb.
ni da ma pu na ba sa taw de na ba sa cha na ma ama khui na wi na wa a hi ka kya sa na da a hi na da ma au pa da mu ho ku a khe na ma cham re na ma a meu ne pe lu o pa da ma mu ho ku pa khin go
So that is how God thinks about what is inside a mother.
ni me na ba a the si na ma da ma cham re be a me ma da primo ho lo khe na ri kya si na go
You know, there are many women who have had abortions and they are suffering right now because it breaks their heart.
ni kun ne si na ma au in ne na primo si ma da mi te mi pya ke lo mi pya ke ho si na go ha mi na khelu ma asara te ne re ma na nya sha na ho sa na mi te a mi sa ke a phu no sa na a kha be no hu da asi ji ke se to ne a mo ba lu si plot to go
Now, if a woman has an abortion and she becomes a believer, then God can, Yeshua can wash that sin away.
นี่ก็เนี่ยพระมอตพระน้องว่ามีเปียกทอกเอาห่อทัวมันน่าเด้อเอ็นว่าโนปาคินมาสนะจีก็จะจำเป็นงูทอกมาคริบุตรเพลเนี่ยมาสนะจะเยซูเนาะมีพลิกลอเปอติสุนี่ก็
But it may be very painful to their hearts when they think about what they have done.
มันน่าเด้อจำเป็นมีพลิกทอกสิติสุปเตเบก็เด้อสิงี้มีเตอาจีจำเป็นงูสิเนี่ยมาสนะเด้ออัตนิกก็แค่เบก็เสด็จมามีเปียกห่อคุณก็สิเนี่ยมาสนะเด้อสิงี้มาสุภาพสุรเลยสิงี้ป่ะมั้ยก็
Whatever God tells us to do or to not do, it's always for our good.
อันนี้เด้อจำเลยไอโชเปเด้อเปโลมินิตัวเตแล้วหลอกเลยไอโชเปมีเตนะมาซะเด้อมีตัวมีไม่เปงี้มั้ยก็
And so if we disobey God and kill our baby, then there are other bad things that happen.
อันนี้มันกินเนี่ยเป็นนี่ดาจำเลยงูตัวนึงมาซะนะเด้อเป็นมีสักแบบเป็นพูดแล้วป่ะเด้อฮอกกูเคนเนี่ยมาซะนะอีเดเด้อเป็นงี้นะเป็นคาบินเอาไว้เด้อแต่เชซีตรงนั้นเด้อแต่ช่วยสิมึงก็สิมั้ยก็
Sometimes it injures a woman inside and she can have no more children.
นี่เห็นมาซะนะมีทั่วเนี่ยมาซะนะเปียกสึกจืดเนี่ยมาซะนะโนบาเคนเนี่ยมาแค่นี้แบบพูดตัวก็
And sometimes over the years, as the years pass, they think about what they have done.
ตรงนี้เห็นมายังชอบนะว่าอัตนิกแค่เบกเซเดอร์มาไอซีมีเปียกห่อเคน
And a woman might say, well, you know, my son would have been 5 years old today.
เห็นมาตอนนี้แค่สกอเห็นนะอ๋อเกิดเนี่ยมีเปียกห่อตัวเดี๋ยวมีสกอพูดตัวนี้คุณเนี่ยอัตเนอร์เนี่ยมาพูดคุณมาอันเอาก็ดีงานนี้ฮะกี่เอาเงินหนักก็ฮะกี่
Or they may say, well, my daughter would have graduated from high school this year.
ตรงนี้มาตรงนี้มาเอาไปพูดตำนานเนี่ยมากูเทนโนก็เดี๋ยวแต่กูก็เดี๋ยวมาไฮสคูลปะกี่
These are some of the hurtful thoughts that can come with that.
นี่มาเห็นมาสนะอุปมาอุตกี้ไปก่อนเด้ออีเดอซีมาโปรโมทที่ตนิคาบิโนก็แล้วก็